Hello Internet, I'm Zahn, and welcome to something a little bit different. Normally on my channel for Let's Play purposes I've covered games on the 8-bit library for Nintendo, since that was sort of where I started when I've gotten to gaming. As a way to sort of mix things up, I want to expand the whole Let's Play / Quick Look series into some games on Steam, especially if I feel like they're interesting or worth covering or talking about. So as a result, I wanted to talk a little bit about this game that you might have seen popping up around the internet somewhat recently, and this game is called Fightin Herds. And for background, in case you're just now hearing about this game, and this is an indie game, early access, was released at the end of February on Steam, so this is on my computer that I'm recording here. This game was originally supposed to be a fighting game based on the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic characters. The company making it are called Main 6. And long story short, they were working on this two-dimensional fighting game based on the MLP characters, and right before they released the finished product a few years ago, they got cease and desisted by Hasbro, the company that owns all the MLP characters, and so that basically killed their entire project. The end result of that was the Friendship is Magic original character designer, one who created the show that's still around now, a lady named Lauren Faust, came forward and offered to design new characters for Main 6 to make their own fighting game and allow them to sort of create the whole project from the ground up, which was pretty cool. And as a result, Main 6 sort of recompiled the projects, started over from the beginning, and they prepared to crowdfund their campaign, and they went on to Indiegogo and they attempted to raise money to fund the production of this game that we see here. And at some point in between that process, the Lab Zero folks, they make the indie fighting game Skullgirls, which happens to be my favorite fighting game. They were doing their own crowdfunding campaign, I think also on Indiegogo, to fund, I believe it was Skullgirls DLC at the time. And one of their stretch goals basically stated if they hit it, they would give Main 6 the Skullgirls engine to use for their fighting game. And they ended up hitting that goal, so Main 6 was able to use the Skullgirls architecture to build them's Fighting Herds. And they were successful in their crowdfunding campaign, and it's been in development for a few years now, it seems. A beta was released last year that I tinkered around with a little bit, but then they finally launched the early access version of them's Fightin Herds this year in February. So because I've been following this game, and because I do like fighting games a lot, I figured it'd be interesting to do a sort of extended quick look series, taking a look at the game, talking through the mechanics, and doing sort of an intro primer in case anyone is curious about what this game's about, since it seems like it's been sort of popping up here or there on the internet. So I thought what I'd do is go into the training mode, sort of talk through the different character archetypes that they've put together here, talk through their movesets and how they play and basic mechanics, and then maybe I'll mess around with arcade mode a little bit and actually show some of that stuff in action. So we'll go ahead and go to single player, or training mode. And just as a sort of warning, since this is kind of a new formatting for my videos, normally when I'm doing Let's Play stuff, I'm using a Nintendo controller, but for fighting games, I'm using my fight stick, which is plugged into my computer. So as I'm doing this and talking through everything, you're going to be able to hear the buttons being pressed. And shouldn't be too distracting, but it's kind of unavoidable since my mic setup makes it such that I can't not have the clicking buttons. So hopefully it won't be too distracting. I just wanted to throw that out as a warning, since normally I don't have any interference, but you'll be able to hear it for this one. So we'll start off, just go from the top. This is Velvet. I think she's either a reindeer or an antelope.
I will win, of course. I win at everything.
She's got kind of like a German accent, I think. We'll just do a random CPU target. So, like I mentioned before, Them's Fightin Herds is a two-dimensional fighting game, sort of similar to, first of all, I'd say it's Skullgirls since it's built on the same architecture, but Marvel vs. Capcom, Guilty Gear, BlazBlue, a lot of the sprite-based two-dimensional games where you have individual character mechanics, you have combo systems, and you have super moves. So each of the different characters in Them's Fightin Herds has sort of a different gimmick or mechanic that their play style is focused around. And I'll sort of talk through what I know about each one so far. Velvet is kind of a combination of close range and long range zoning or use of projectiles to keep distance. For the basic inputs for all the different characters, you have a light attack, you have a medium attack, you have a heavy attack, and then you have a fourth input which uses what they call the magic system. The bars underneath my character here, those light blue bars, are her magic meter, and each character's gimmick utilizes that meter differently. So for Velvet, if you just push the D button or the magic button, she shoots out a real quick snowflake that you can direct in different directions, I believe. Yeah, you can launch it straight up. You can launch it out. You can launch it in the air too, I think. Either up or out, looks like. And that bar, the magic bar, slowly recharges over time. She has several special moves, which you can see on the command list. Let's see if I can pull it up here. So she's got special attacks, projectiles. I'll sort of demonstrate what they do. Her first one, the icicles, depending on the strength of the button pushed, generates them in different angles. So you can use the different icicles that come out and then they shoot forward after a while. And I think they go away if she takes a hit. But that could be used to sort of interrupt the opponent or to cross them up if you're jumping around. The fireball motion or quarter circle backwards creates this trail of spikes along the ground, and depending on the strength of the button push, they come out in different spots. So the light version is a low attack. The medium version is right in front of her. Probably hits anti-air. And the hard version comes in over the top. It's probably an overhead and hits right in front of her. The down, forward, or I guess dragon punch motion creates things at a distance in front of her. The light version comes out low, I believe, and way out ahead. The medium version comes out from behind, and the hard version goes way out. I think it's full screen. Yeah. Another thing I forgot to mention, their magic meter. I haven't played around with this character a whole lot. You can do a fireball motion and back, and she does this little dance that pulls the opponent forward, which can redirect their trajectory in the air and basically control where they are. So being able to do a combination of projectiles all over the screen and also mess around with the momentum of the opponent allows her to sort of control the screen. She reminds me a bit of Glacius from Killer Instinct, a combination of range and projectiles. So the way the combo system works in this game is very similar to Skullgirls. It reminds me of it a lot. And you basically chain attacks together for combos, and you utilize a launcher system to knock the opponent in the air, and you can hit them and juggle them in the air or tack on special moves. And how you do that per character sort of just varies depending on the mechanics of the character themselves. So if we were to just do a combination of light, medium, hard, and her launcher is down, forward, hard, which is what gets people in the air. So just doing that and then continuing the attack chain in the air is how you combo people. Pretty universally, just sort of tends to depend on the actual movements of the character themselves. So that's an example of just a pretty simple grounded combo that goes in the air. You can mix up highs and lows, the same thing, and depending on the character, you can hit them off the ground with certain moves, which I haven't messed around too much with so far. And basically it just comes down to mixing up the attacks and customizing how you fight around what the different character gimmicks are. So people I've seen playing Velvet tend to mix up her icicles and sort of get people in close or keep them out, and then combo them and use the different ice attacks to either lock them down or chain additional attacks. Pretty interesting character, and I know the computer is really obnoxious to fight against when it's controlling Velvet. So, as you can see, the magic bar for her, again, refills over time, but that red meter, the super, is for the super moves. And each character has 2 right now, I believe. So you input the super moves. We go back to the move list. The Ice Cyclone is a down, quarter circle forward motion, and 2 attack buttons at once. I think it can be any combination of light, medium, medium, hard. And if you... So I'll demonstrate what that looks like. Frostbite is a different mechanic, which I'll talk about in a sec. So if we do Fireball and 2 attacks. Cyclone is a full screen attack that moves towards the opponent, and I believe it pulls him towards the edge of the screen.
Larry, did you slip?
So, and that was medium and hard for a throw. So if we do the same Cyclone from about mid-range, yeah, pulls the opponent all the way across and knocks him to the edge of the screen. And it comes out relatively fast, so it's pretty good super. And I need to build meter up to demonstrate the second one. Okay. So, on the command list, the Frostbite is a continuation super. So, if you throw the Ice Cyclone and then you input the Fireball quarter circle back into attacks, that's what triggers the Frostbite continuation super. So if we were to throw Cyclone, that second thing is the Frostbite. And I don't know what that status is. You notice the computer was glowing white for a second. I don't know if that's a movement slow. Probably has something to do with like a debuff. But basically, if you find an opportunity to throw a super out and you have enough bar, you can input that second command to continue it. And in some cases, some characters will allow you to continue comboing, or it'll change something with the fight that allow you to keep the pressure on them. So it's kind of an interesting mechanic, sort of like a level 1 and an additional level 1 back to back. Well, I think that was Velvet in a nutshell. The magic attacks you can see there are all what use that magic meter. Oh, I didn't do that one. So, Dragon Punch and Magic gives a big patch of spikes that moves across the screen, and that uses, looks like 1 bar. So basically, that's Velvet in a nutshell. Interesting combination of close and long range. I don't know how to do too much with her, but I've seen some really high-level players online, and she basically hits you at all angles, so that's the first character. So I guess what I can do is sort of proceed through each one. I won't go over the basic inputs, like the light, medium, hard attacks for all of them, since that's universal across the characters. I'll try and pare down the whole analysis to what they focus on in their special moves and super moves, and we'll see how long that takes.